The Cards are looking to bounce back this week with a trip back east and down memory lane for Coach Kingsbury. It's been a long, strange week in the NFL heading into this one. There's lots to cover, so let's kick things off. Welcome in, everyone, to the Cardinals Pre-Game Show. Lisa Matthews here with you as we get you set for this Week 12 matchup against the Patriots and your Arizona Cardinals. We all hope you had a wonderful and safe Thanksgiving. But before we dive into this one, make sure you click that like button and subscribe to our official YouTube channel for all of our exclusive coverage on your Arizona Cardinals following today's game. Again, Lisa Matthews here with you, joined with Kyle Odegard hanging here with you today. And Kyle, we are just happy that there's a game playing given the state of the NFL.
I know it's tough seeing what's going on in Baltimore with all of those COVID test positives, and Pittsburgh, and now Denver is getting crazy with no quarterbacks being able to play today. So you're right. There's a lot of stuff going around in the NFL, and the Cardinals have been hit by COVID-19 this week, but at least they're playing, and this is a big game for the Cardinals against the Patriots.
Yeah, it's been a strange week for many after hearing the news that Larry Fitzgerald ended up on the COVID-19 list and obviously did not make the trip here today. Now, the last time Fitz did not play a game was in 2014. I think he's only missed 7 games in his entire career. Here's head coach Cliff Kingsbury on Fitz's positive test.
Just disappointed for him to not be able to, obviously go against Bill Belichick and go up to New England, a storied place, and kind of the standard for the NFL the last 20 years or whatever it is.
When I heard if it was Fitz, it definitely was a bigger surprise just because knowing who he is. And, I can't think of the last time. I don't know if anyone can. A lot of you guys have been around longer than I have, but the last time we got on the plane and Larry wasn't on the plane with us, I don't know when that was. I definitely wasn't around in Arizona the last time that happened, if it's ever happened. So it's definitely going to be interesting. It's going to be a different dynamic, and missing him in spirit. But we'll make sure we go out there with him on our heart.
Yeah, a reminder for Humphreys and many that no one is truly invincible from this virus. We know that. An uptick now spreading around the NFL. Trent Sherfield also joins him on that COVID-19 list. And Kyle, just aside from what he does consistently on the field, what we know of him, just the immediate impact, the obvious impact as a leader and a captain for this team.
Yeah, it's so weird to not have Larry Fitzgerald on the field, and you're right. His role isn't the same as when he was arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins is the go-to guy on offense, but every time the Cardinals play at home, we hear those Larry chants. And on the road, I think he's just a nice calming presence for this team. Like you said, he's a leader. So not having him hurts the team X's and O's wise. And like you said, also because of the leadership factor, you don't have that veteran presence to rely on in New England.
Yeah, so the Cards will be without Fitz here today, but they will not be without their star quarterback, Kyler Murray, which was speculated all week long, of course, after he suffered that shoulder injury in Seattle. Luckily, I feel like the long week gave him time to just rest and recover. But Kyle, we are still kind of unsure about any limitations, any restrictions he might have specifically with his feet and running the ball.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the shoulder injury, you wouldn't normally think that affects the running game, but if Cliff Kingsbury doesn't want to put his quarterback in harm's way, he's not going to call as many running plays. Maybe Kyler Murray won't want to pull the ball on those zone reads as much. We'll see how it goes. I think there's that fine line. You want to be effective on the ground, and in order to do so, Kyler Murray is a big part of it, but you don't want to ever have him aggravate the injury. I mean, he's just so valuable to this team. They have to be smart about it too. So I'm interested early on to see if there are any restrictions on him running it, and then throwing the ball. Is there as much velocity as normal the way Kyler Murray's throwing it? So it's definitely something to watch in that first quarter.
Yeah, and of course, if by any chance, by bad luck, Murray has to leave this game. Chris Streveler will be next in line. Now, another big storyline heading into this one, of course, Cliff Kingsbury and his connection to the Patriots, the team and the coach that drafted him back in 2003, which will be interesting. We know that this game probably means a lot to Kingsbury, but it will be fascinating, Kyle, just to see how Belichick approaches this game. We know he's a pretty simplistic guy, but he does do one thing well, and that's take away what you do best.
Yeah, that's definitely his MO. And what do the Cardinals do best on offense? Is that throwing it to DeAndre Hopkins? Do they try to take him out of the game? Is it the running game? Because the Cardinals have been very efficient on the ground all season long. So I don't think there's one thing you automatically point to with what the Cardinals do. But you're right, Lisa. Bill Belichick is such a master tactician that he's going to have a good plan, and it's up to the Cardinals and Cliff Kingsbury to combat that and find a way to get things done offensively.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see them go head-to-head. And now we have Dave Pasch and Ron Wolfley go head-to-head and debate this. Guys, they know the drill. It's 3 questions. Each of our debaters has 30 seconds to answer and then rebuke. Are you guys ready? Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Lisa.
Look at all the boxes we got going on here. 2020, y'all. All right, first question we have. Number 1, traveling to play on the East Coast is more of a mental or a physical hurdle. Dave Pasch, you can start things off here.
Well, I think it's a mental hurdle more than anything. I think it's about being ready to play. And the Cardinals played a Thursday night game, and they didn't look ready to play, certainly on offense. At least the players didn't. So I don't think it's as much about traveling east or playing an 11 o'clock in the morning game from a body clock standpoint. This is about mentally being prepared and ready to go, because, you know, for the Cardinals to win this game and for the Cardinals to be successful and be a playoff team, it's on their offense. Their offense is good enough. They haven't played like it, though, especially in the first halves of games. And so I'd love to see them start fast and get a lead. It feels like forever since the Cardinals had a lead in the first half.
Let me just say that my opponent has not moistened a jock in 25 years. So let me just say this to you right now. I think it's mental and physical. It's both, as a matter of fact, Lisa. Listen, if you had a physical game the week before, boy, that's going to be a hard trip to go back east, and then suddenly you're out there at 10 a.m. in the morning or 11 a.m. in the morning. It's a little bit different, but you know what? If you've got an injury, the same thing. It could also set you back a little bit physically, but mentally more than anything else. There's no doubt it's a combination of the mental and the physical. You just got to overcome that. And the leadership in the locker room is critical in doing this. It's not going to be the coach. It's not going to be your coach in your room, whatever room that is. It's not going to be that guy. It's not going to be the offensive coordinator, the head coach, or whatever. Not going to be the general manager. It's going to be the team leaders. Guys that are not only captains, but also guys that are leaders in that locker room that set the tone for everybody else. It's unacceptable to come out here and start slow. You've got to challenge each other, and hopefully that's what they're going to do.
Shots fired early in this one. I like it. Mr. Ron Wolfley will probably know this one better than anyone. The way to defeat a Bill Belichick coach team is
You got to be more disciplined than they are. They do not beat themselves. Bill Belichick teams do not beat themselves. I know this because I played for him for 2 years in 92 and 93. He was exactly the same way. Eliminate all distractions whatsoever. All mental issues, eliminate them. Don't beat yourself, whatever that may be. It's one of the reasons why year after year after year, they're one of the least penalized teams in the NFL, and I think that is a real issue here today. The Arizona Cardinals, of course, with all the drive killers that they've had, very penalized team in the National Football League, and the New England Patriots are not.
Bill Belichick is always one step ahead of you, and so in order to beat the Patriots today, you've got to anticipate what Belichick is going to do, and that's very hard to do. But I think you and I, Wolf, can sit here, and Lisa, and say, if you're Bill Belichick, you're trying to keep Kyler Murray in the pocket. You're trying to make Kyler Murray beat you throwing the football. So in order for the Cardinals to win today, I think they've got to anticipate that that's going to be the case. It's going to have to be about either running the ball with Kenyon Drake and Chase Edmonds, or about Kyler Murray finding a way to go through his progressions. I mean, early in the game against Seattle, it just looked like Kyler wasn't sharp, didn't look like he was seeing the field, didn't look as prepared as he probably should be. I'd love to see that change today against New England and anticipate what you're going to see from Bill Belichick defensively. Which
leads us into question number 3. True or false, Kyler Murray must carry the team with his arm and his legs? Dave Pash.
That's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. For the Cardinals to make the playoffs, it's about Kyler Murray. Their defense has overachieved this year. They have a ton of injuries. Vance Joseph's done a great job. You look at their roster and the number of injuries they've had. I mean, the defense was playing way above its head when they were healthy. The offense has got to be better. Kyler's got to be better. It's year 2, I get it, and he's putting up incredible numbers, on track to become likely the first in the history of the league to go 4,000, 1,000 passing and rushing, but he has to be better, not just today, but the rest of the season for the Cardinals to go anywhere in the postseason in 2020.
I would say, Lisa, false, because I don't expect him to run the ball today. I don't think the New England Patriots are going to allow Kyler Murray to run the ball today. I think they'll have a spy on him. We'll see early in this game. Not only that, I think they're going to play heavy on the edge, just like the Seattle Seahawks did for the most part. So I will say false because I think it's going to be the arm of Kyler Murray that's going to be the difference here today. The New England Patriots are very, very average in terms of their defense, in terms of their rush defense and their pass defense as well. They give up chunk plays, number 32 in the National Football League, as a matter of fact, and passing yards per play. They give up chunk plays all over the field. The only thing they do well is take the ball away from you via interception. That's the only thing they do well. Number 2, as a matter of fact, in the National Football League. Kyler, from time to time, he's had some inadequacies in the past. He's been ineffective from time to time, right? Inconsistent with some of his throws. And then we've seen him light it up in other games. What kind of play will we get from Kyler Murray today? That's going to decide with his arm, not his legs.
Interesting. All right, guys, let's close this thing out. Final remarks. Dave Pash.
You know, Doug Collins, who a longtime NBA coach, one of the great analysts in the history of broadcasting, used to say that the NBA is a first-quarter game. And you hear that and you're like, the NBA is a first-quarter game? I think you could say the same about the NFL. It's a first-quarter game. You establish yourself in the first quarter. The Cardinals were not good in the first quarter against Seattle. I think if the Cardinals play better in the first quarter, they win the game today. And they're 7-4, and they've set themselves up to have a great December. But if you don't play well in the first quarter, you might lose today. And that's 3 out of 4 with your one win being on a Hail Mary. I don't want to be in that situation, 6-5, not playing my best football with 2 games against the Rams coming up here in December.
Jim Hanifin was my coach coming in 1985, and he passed away this week, of course, at the age of 87. Jim Hanifin was a guy I absolutely loved, larger than life, a guy that loved the game of football, and more than anything else, he loved lowering the plow and hitting the gas. And Jim Hanifin, if we can go out and play a game like Jim Hanifin would be happy that we played, it's going to be running the ball and doing it in a north-south fashion with Kenyon Drake and Chase Edmonds. Not Kyler Murray. It's going to be the running back running the ball in a north-south way. They're going to play heavy on the edge, get Kenyon Drake going, and then we'll see where the chips fall. But this is a Jim Hanifin game.
Wow. 2 very strong closing statements right there. Kyle, who's your vote for?
That was a really good debate overall. I lean toward Dave on this one. I agree with him about the magnitude of this game and the early start in New England, because if you get behind in this game, the way New England runs the ball, I think that's some bad news. So, Pash, I agree with you, and I think it's a huge game if they can get to 7-4 compared to 6-5.
You're very smart, Kyle. Very astute. Very perceptive.
How do you go against Jim Hanifin?
That's what I was going to say. You know,
How?
You got me with my heartstrings there, Wolf. I think you win that one.
Thanks, Lisa. I appreciate that.
Thanks, guys, both for your time. We'll see you in the post-game show. Enjoy this one.
Yep.
All right, guys, it's been 10 days since the Cardinals last took the field following that Thursday night football loss in Seattle. How are they preparing for this Week 12 matchup? It's time for our Minute to Win It, presented by Desert Financial Credit Union.
Yeah, I feel good. Obviously getting banged up a little bit past couple weeks. Just taking it day by day, obviously. I throw a lot throughout the day, so we're trying to, limit those throws and just, precautionary, take care of my shoulder.
They're going to play physical. They're going to get their hands on you, and they're going to, eliminate the space. Really, it's when you watch them week in and week out, it's hard to get a beat on exactly how you want to attack it because it's so multiple and ever-changing week in and week out.
This offense is run first. They're averaging, I think, 164 game rushing, so that's going to be a chore to slow them down as far as them running the football.
So we have to be fully prepared and make sure that we're in our gap, being a gap-sound defense, because we can't let the run game beat us. We have to stop the run and force Cam to throw the ball in our offense to put the ball in the air.
And I feel like ever since I've got consecutive snaps that I've been able to find a comfort level within the game and feel the flow of it and be able to be myself and just play.
Kyle, obviously great to see the game slowing down for rookie Isaiah Simmons, and they'll need him and his presence on this football field with multiple defensive players out. In fact, let's take a look here at the inactives list. What we did know coming into this game, Josh Morrow already ruled out. That's another down lineman, but it looks like Zach Allen is a go here today.
Yeah, that's really important because you're right. Not having Josh Morrow, and you still don't have Corey Peters or Jordan Phillips, Rashard Lawrence, Lecky Fotu. All of these important defensive linemen are out. So having Zach Allen back is really important. And can he play a lot in this game already? He's missed quite a few weeks with an ankle injury. But as much as he can go, I think they're going to put him out there because they're very thin on the defensive line.
Now for the Patriots, we're heading into this one. Stephon Gilmore is dealing with a hand injury, but he's a go. N'Keal Harry going up against his buddy Byron Murphy, Kyle.
Yeah, that'll be fun. We'll see how much they match up, but those two guys played in high school for a couple years together. I believe they actually lived together for maybe a year or so when they were teenagers. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm sure some bragging rights on the line if they do match up.
Go Devils. That's my bragging rights there. Not much there. It's now time to take a look at Foxborough, presented by Verizon, into Gillette Stadium. A beautiful 50 degrees out there. It's not too chilly. I was expecting, you see on the schedule a game in late November, maybe some snow, but it's beautiful out there. And we'll be joined now by our Cardinals insider, Darren Urban, who is staying toasty over there at Gillette Stadium. And Darren, first off, you had a chance to get a live look at Kyler Murray right there warming up. How's he looking?
He's actually looking pretty good, quite frankly, Lisa. And I don't think that's any big surprise given the situation where he was left without an injury designation on Friday. That was a good news for his right shoulder. But he came out here early. He was getting warmed up. Unfortunately, on one play, Fox was using the overhead camera to kind of test out pregame, and when Kyler was trying to throw a pass into the end zone, he hit the camera. So there was some concern there a little bit with what was going to happen with the camera, but they got that all fixed, and it looks like it's working again. So Kyler didn't damage some multi-$1,000 camera. It doesn't look like, but it does look like his arm is in good shape. So hopefully that means all systems go for Kyler Murray today.
It's good that he's healthy and the camera's healthy. When you switch over to Larry Fitzgerald and not having him, Darren, what do you think the Cardinals do to replace him in the lineup? Is there a certain player you think fills his role the majority of the time?
Well, Kyle, when we were talking to Cliff Kingsbury earlier this week, I actually asked him about Andy Isabella, who is behind Larry Fitzgerald on the depth chart, and you would just assume would take a large part of that role. And I don't think anybody would argue that Cliff wasn't exactly over-enthusiastic in his response. I mean, he did say Andy Isabella continues to work, but it wasn't like he said this guy is going to step in and do a great job. He mentioned a lot of other people, including tight end Dan Arnold and running back Chase Edmonds. So based on that, and based on kind of where this team is, and based on the fact that they might want to use more two tight end sets and run the ball a little bit against the Patriots today, I do think Fitzgerald's role will be filled by Arnold and Edmonds and maybe some Isabella, but I think in the passing game, wide receiver-wise, it sounds like they'll probably lean heavier on DeAndre Hopkins and Christian Kirk, and it'll be interesting to see how much Hopkins can do against Stephon Gilmore.
Keyshawn Johnson also active, so it'll be interesting to see if some of these young guys can step up with Larry Fitzgerald being out, like you said. It's now time for our Arizona Ford dealers' keys to the game, and I will lead things off here. Number one on my list, clean up those flags. We all saw it in Seattle, and you couldn't miss it with the number of flags thrown last week, over 100 yards. You especially can't have that given the fact that some of those led to points, which ultimately led to the loss. You can't desire to be a top team in this league and also be the top penalized team in the NFL. Now, my second key is back to run-in. If Kyler is hindered to do so, however, you still have two very good ball carriers in Edmonds and Drake. I want to see them from the start set the tone, the physicality up front, and that's by running the ball. Kyle, your keys.
Yeah, I agree. The Cardinals' running game is important, and on the flip side, my first key is don't get gashed up front. I think New England's going to come out and try to be physical and do some heavy formations and try to get 5 yards a carry against this thin Cardinals defensive line. But if Zach Allen and some of the other guys can hold up, then that helps the defense a lot. And my second one is avoid mind games. We all know how smart Bill Belichick is, and he's obviously a master tactician, but Cliff Kingsbury is the type of guy who is creative in his own right, and he has to make sure he's not psyched out by going against a guy that he used to play for, who's helped him in his coaching career. Cliff Kingsbury just has to stick with what he does best and don't worry about who's on the other side. How about you, Darren?
Number one key for me is score for starters. I mean, we talked about the slow starts that this team has had this season. They need to do well in the first quarter. They need to do well in the opening possession. They need to get some points and play from ahead for once. They don't do that enough. Most of the time, they're playing from behind. They've been fortunate enough to be able to win a lot of those games, but it's going to catch up to them sooner rather than later, and part of that is getting rid of those penalties. My number two key, can Kyler shoulder the load? Obviously, he hurt his right shoulder last week. You worry a little bit about what hits he might be able to take. You worry about whether Cliff Kingsbury will be confident in being able to call run plays for him and whether he can hold up to that. But this team does so much better when Kyler Murray is able to run the ball at least a little bit, or at least the threat of running the ball. And he's going to have to play a good game today for this team to win.
All right, Darren, nice play on words as always. Thanks for your time and safe travels back home.
Thanks, Lisa.
Well, the Patriots look a whole lot different here in 2020 as many things, but that certainly doesn't change the fact that they are coached by Bill Belichick, a well-coached team. Kingsbury previews this game coming up here today against the Patriots in his weekly show Game Plan alongside Paul Calvisi and Ron Wolfley.
I'm guessing no one is better known for the daily grind and week to week than Coach Bill Belichick. You played for him, former 6th-round pick of the Patriots. How much interaction did you have back in the day with Coach Belichick?
Yeah, when you're playing with him, not a ton. He wants you to be on edge around there and wants you to earn it each and every day. And he doesn't like people to be comfortable around that building. But the knowledge that you gain from just being in that building and with that organization is tremendous, and you really get a PhD in football when you walk through those halls.
So tell us, what stands out about a Patriots team that's an 11-time defending champ? They haven't seen 6 losses since 2009. So you tell us, what do they look like this year?
Yeah, they're still a very competitive team that can beat anybody on any given day. I think you saw that 2 weeks ago with that win over the Ravens. Cam Newton still has a lot left in the tank. He threw for 370 yards against the Texans. Josh McDaniels was one of the best play callers in the game, and then obviously defensively they're always going to have a great plan and execute at a high level. And so it's a very dangerous team come into November, December. You know they're going to make a push, and we're going to have to play our best game to hang in there.
Cliff, do you expect that Bill Belichick may actually dial it up a little bit, come after Kyler, play soft zone? What do you expect from Coach?
You never know with him. I mean, he's kind of the master of changing it up and trying to take away what you do best. And so I'll be anxious, just like y'all will, to see his plan and how he's trying to attack us.
Kyle, it's interesting. I mean, the Patriots, a mediocre team at best. They don't have tons of star players. We know that Cam Newton, what he can do. We faced him in his peak time, but there's just always that threat there with a Bill Belichick coach team.
Yeah, I completely agree. You look at the statistics, and they're pretty average, like you said, and their overall record is 4-6. But there is just that intimidation factor of going against Bill Belichick, not knowing what he has up his sleeve, and playing on the road too. It's never easy to win on the road in the East Coast. So I think this is going to be a tough game for the Cardinals, even though talent-wise it does look like they have the superior group.
Up his sleeve? You know he does a no-sleeve look, Kyle.
True.
All right, let's move along here and head down Analytics Alley. Kyle Odegard, it's your time with a deep dive into the numbers presented by Gila River Hotels and Casinos. Take it away.
All right, my first Analytics Alley nugget today, I'm looking at Justin Pugh. He's been one of the most effective offensive linemen in the NFL this season. He's the 4th best guard at pass blocking and 6th best in run blocking in the entire NFL, according to ESPN's blocking win rate metric. So I think Justin Pugh's done a really nice job this season. And then you look at my second nugget, DeAndre Hopkins headed into this week with 917 receiving yards, which is the most in the NFL. On the other side is Stephon Gilmore, who's the reigning Defensive Player of the Year, and this is only the second time in NFL history that the receiving yards leader is going against the reigning DPOY in a game. So Hopkins versus Gilmore, it's going to be a great game, and historically very rarely happens to have two guys at their peak going against one another.
Yeah, definitely must-see TV right there. Can't wait to watch that matchup. And you know what? Sticking with our numerical theme, it's time for Truth in Numbers. You ready, Kyle?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do this. Number 19 leads things off for us here in Truth in Numbers, and that's the combined rushing touchdown for Kyler Murray with 10 and Cam Newton with 9 in 2020. They rank number 1 and number 2 amongst all NFL QBs.
7 games this season, the Cardinals have put up more than 400 yards of offense. No other team in the NFL has more than the league's top-ranked Big Red attack.
13 consecutive games the Cardinals have scored 21 or more points. Only Kansas City and New Orleans have longer active streaks than AZ.
10 tackles for rookie Isaiah Simmons in Seattle last week, including a sack and 2 tackles for loss. For sure his best game as a young pro so far.
Yes, he went off. Expect him to do the same here today. 2003 is the next number. That was the year the Patriots selected Cliff Kingsbury in the 6th round of the draft. It will be the first time Kingsbury faces off against the man who drafted him, Bill Belichick.
And finally, number 4. 4 consecutive games for the Cardinals, which have been decided by 7 points or fewer, including 3 that were decided by 3 points or fewer. Arizona also trailed at halftime in all 4 of those contests, a trend they hope to stop today.
And that is Truth in Numbers, and there's truth with that final number that you threw out there, Kyle. Starting fast, it's a big point of emphasis that this team has been trying to set the tone early. We haven't seen them do that too often. In fact, it was in, I think, Washington game where they scored on their opening drive. So definitely important to see the stars show up here today. And while speaking of the star players, it's officially time for the Pro Bowl voting. And a few Cardinals find their name in the mix, and there is no doubt that safety Budda Baker gets another nod into this. However, the Pro Bowl is not the only bowl game that he has his eyes set on.
It's a great thing to be leading safeties in the Pro Bowl, but for me, you know, I'm trying to make it to, you know, the Super Bowl. So we're just trying to take it day by day, week by week, and I feel like as long as I continue to play at a high level, I feel like the team can get more W's. So that's all on my mind, and that's what I try to do.
You can cast your vote for your favorite Cardinals players by going to NFL.com/Pro Bowl votes. Now, Kyle, let's take a look here at some of the games coming up here. What's on tap? Of course, we're the morning game, so lots to look forward to here in Week 12. And just pure mayhem, really, when you talk about the NFL right now. There's Denver not playing with a quarterback. I mean, the Ravens Steelers, will they play on Tuesday? Just so much going on right now in the NFL.
Yeah, it seems like the last couple weeks, the coronavirus cases have gotten an uptick, and honestly, it feels like the next few are going to be pretty dicey as far as who tests positive and who goes on the reserve list. So it's definitely an extra element this season of you're going to the stretch run, and obviously there's a lot of excitement about who's going to make the playoffs, but from a weekly standpoint, it's hard to know which team is going to be healthy and who's going to be missing a key player or two. So the Cardinals ran into it this week to a slight extent, but teams like the Ravens and the Broncos got hit hard.
Yeah, and then we have the Seahawks playing the Eagles on Monday Night Football. And when you look at the NFC West and the standings, I mean, the Cardinals absolutely need a win here today in order to just keep pace with the Rams and the Seahawks.
Yeah, completely agree. This is the type of game where it feels like it's going to be close, and if the Cardinals can get it, then you're right. They're staying right in that NFC West mix and feeling pretty good about where they're at playoff-wise. A loss makes it really tough to stay competitive in the NFC West. So I think this is just a crucial game for the Cardinals.
And, of course, the Rams 49ers today at 2:05, and 49ers looking for a home. So we'll see what happens. There's speculation that they could be playing right here at State Farm Stadium, Kyle.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of fluid situations going on in the NFL, and you wouldn't have imagined the Niners playing at State Farm, but it's a very interesting year, and we ought to all roll with the punches, I think.
What is happening? All right, well, there's a look at the standings. It's now time to talk a little bit about the guy, Isaiah Simmons, a team-high 10 tackles, a sack, 2 tackles for a loss, a pass breakup. He was everywhere during that Thursday night football game, and he's feeling pretty confident now. I had a chance to catch up with him on the fly this week, and I asked him where he feels best in this defense.
Well, the dime position is where, I've had my most success this year, but, I've done a lot, and I feel like I've found success in many things that I've done, like coming off of the edge or, playing at like linebacker or even like closing the middle of the field. I just feel like I've kind of had a lot of success everywhere, even playing in the slot some, kind of like Clemson all over again.
He's feeling like those old Clemson days not too far long ago, and you can catch our full interview up now on our YouTube channel. Be sure to click that like button and subscribe. And this leads us, Kyle, right into our bird watching presented by Santan Ford right here, because my eye will be on Isaiah Simmons right there. Can we have an encore? He's feeling pretty confident, like he said, flying all over the field last week. You could just tell things are really slowing down for him, which is so important. He's officially unleashed, and we know Vance Joseph, he likes to use that 0-6-5 defense. That's 6 linebackers, 5 defensive backs, 0 defensive linemen. We know that because there's not many to use from right now on the roster. And Isaiah Simmons is at the heart of that. So that's someone I'll be watching here today on defense. How about for you, Kyle?
Yeah, he's a big one. I'll go with another inside linebacker, Jordan Hicks, the veteran who I think is going to be really important in stopping the run. We've talked about the Cardinals' issues on the defensive line. I think New England is going to try to pound the ball, and you need those linebackers to play well. So I think Jordan Hicks is going to rack up a lot of tackles today.
Now on offense, with Fitz out, I think the door is wide open for the opportunity of Andy Isabella to step up here today, get some action. He's been a lot more quiet since somewhat of an electric start to 2020, what we saw beginning this season. But it'll be interesting to see how much he gets that opportunity, like we talked with Darren Urban. They have 4 healthy wide receivers on this roster. Obviously, they can use Chase Edmonds, Dan Arnold. They would do 12 personnel likely. But, Andy played at UMass, and I'm sure he wants a special homecoming here today. How about for you, Kyle?
And as media, we're always rooting for nice little stories like homecoming, so I agree with you there. I think Dan Arnold is another guy who might get more opportunities in this game. I think Kyler Murray trusts him, and it's important for him to play well if he wants to, be a big part of this offense for the last few games, and I think this is a good opportunity for him, so I'm going to go with Dan Arnold as my bird watching.
The lead writes itself, Kyle.
Yeah.
Start writing it now. Andy Isabella. All right, well, that goes into our prediction, our bold prediction for today's game. I am calling it Budda Baker gets a pick 6.
You're always so much more bold than me, and you sometimes get it, too. That's impressive. I think I'm going to go with Cam Newton under 200 yards passing in this game. I think the Cardinals secondary is going to do a nice job.
All right, Kyle, enjoy the game from your couch. We will see you for our post-game show.
Sounds good.
All right, Cardinals fans, can the Cardinals get to win number 7? Kickoff is just a few minutes away, but remember to join us right here after this game on Facebook and YouTube. Enjoy it, everyone.